All right, welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our first of 8 webinars. My name is Amy Wartham, and I am so excited about being here today. This webinar is being brought to you by UNC Charlotte's Office of Continuing Ed, where we deliver 1- and 2-day professional development programs. We currently have about 26 different certificate programs and dozens of standalone courses. We also offer customized training solutions that can be delivered on-site at your organization. Of course, once the stay-at-home restrictions are lifted. And we do training actually all over the U.S. Of course, we do a lot of virtual training as well. Or if you'd like to do an off-site with your team and bring them to our UNC Charlotte Center City building, we'd love to host you there as well. In addition, we do exam prep programs, one-on-one coaching, summer camps for your kiddos, and, well, in other words, we've got your learning needs covered. So let's talk a little bit about the rules of engagement. So today's webinar is going to be about 45 minutes, and then we're going to, we'll stop and have some Q&A, so make sure that you've got your questions ready. Also, we've muted your mics and your video, so if you don't mind, there's going to be lots of opportunities for you to participate in the chat box. Make sure that you utilize that. And when you're typing, make sure at the bottom you click all participants. That way everybody can glean some information from you. In addition, this session is being recorded. And later on this afternoon, you're going to get an email with that recording. In addition, you're also going to get a link to an online evaluation. I would really appreciate it if you would take the 5 minutes to fill that out for me. Give us some feedback about what you liked, maybe some topics that you'd like to see in the future. And then finally, we are going to load you up with lots of great resources to help you continue your learning journey around resilience. So, if you're wondering what this webinar is all about, here are our 2 main learning objectives. First of all, we're going to recognize what resilience in the workplace looks like and why it's important. Then we're going to talk a little bit about developing some specific actions to build your personal resilience, both inside and outside the organization. So let's get started. All right, so adversity is a part of life. Sometimes it feels like we are walking right into the eye of a storm. Nobody gets through life without a lot of ups and downs. Maybe it's the loss of a job or a loss of a loved one. Maybe it's a breakup. Maybe it's a divorce. Maybe you didn't get the promotion you expected. Well, you get the idea. This is where you can insert whatever terrible life experience of your choice into the sentence. But a lot of times we can't control an event, but we do get to decide whether we will let our temporary circumstances become our permanent identity, or we can transform this adversity into opportunity. Now, as tragic as our current pandemic has been, it's leading us to some profound changes in human behavior. The global crisis that we're currently experiencing is teaching us a lot about resilience. So let's level set and define what resilience is. Broadly speaking, resilience is the ability or the capacity to bounce back. And I love this picture of this bouncing ball. Basically, it just says, hey, you know, when things get tough, this is our ability to come back from whatever it might be. Resilience increases your ability to show up as your best self and includes concepts like flexibility and agility, durability, strength, speed of recovery, and buoyancy. Of course, the workplace always gives us lots of opportunities to show how resilient we actually can be. So this begs the question, can individuals become even more resilient? And I'm excited to say that the answer is yes. The exciting thing about resilience is that it is a skill. And just like any other skill, with practice, resilience can be learned. All right, just like we talked a moment ago about resilience, including, the concepts of flexibility and agility, durability, resilience has been associated with various other positive states, including optimism, zest, spunk, curiosity, energy, and a lot of times even the openness to different experiences. These positive emotional states are a tremendous value to the workplace. I mean, take this lady, for example. She's in sales, and she's only 35 years old, but hey, she's resilient, and she's doing great. I'm going to pause because I know that you guys are laughing right there. All right, so I'd love to know who is in my audience today. So, using the chat box, I want you to type in, on a scale of 1 to 5, how resilient are you? 1 being that deflated playground ball that you had in 3rd grade. It still had a little bit of bounce, but not a lot. Or are you like the Chumbawamba song? I get knocked down, I get back up again, never gonna keep me down, I get knocked down. So let's see, oh my gosh, we got some 3s, 4s, 2.5, I missed that. Let's see, we got a couple of 2s, oh boy. For those folks that you're putting in 2s, this session is going to be perfect for you. Oh, we got some 4s and 5s, so yeah, we got some Chumbawamba folks out there. Awesome. All right, I love it. There was an 8. Woohoo! Off the chart. I love it. All right, lots of 5s. Marie says, woo, get back up again. Yeah, man. Heck yeah. So it looks like we've got sort of a variance of maybe some folks that might need a little bit of extra help, and we've got some folks that feel like they are rock solid. So that is terrific. What's interesting is that we are inundated with messages about being tough or strong or independent all the time. Besides the tub thumping song, think about some of the other songs we hear on the radio. Elton John's I'm Still Standing, yeah, yeah, yeah. Or Taylor Swift, Shake It Off, or Pharrell's Happy. We're always being told that, hey, we should be a little bit tougher. Now think about some of your favorite movies that address resilience. Movies like Rudy, or The Karate Kid, Home Alone, Unbroken, The Wizard of Oz, and even Nemo. I mean, think about what his dad went through to get back to Nemo. Talk about resilience. I mean, he had to fight off sharks. So, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't include all 7 of the movies from the Rocky franchise. Yo, Adrian. But I love this. This is Rocky Balboa was the movie that came out in 2006. And there's a conversation that he's having with his son about resilience. And the conversation really perfectly embodies everything that resilience is. So let's take a look.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
I love that. I love that. That's how winning is done. Every time I hear that clip, I feel like I need to do a couple of air punches. But clearly this captures, so many key principles about resilience, like believing in yourself and continuing to move forward. So let's talk about, I want you guys to jump back in the chat box for me. On a scale of 1 to 5, how important do you consider resilience in the workplace? 1 is that soft and spongy, squishy, it's great if you've got it. If not, no big deal. 5 is a yes. You absolutely, positively, without a doubt, have to have resilience. It's a solid skill to have. Oh, yeah, man. 4s and 5s. 4s and 5s. I love it. Everybody's saying, yeah, that's important. And it is. And obviously you think it's important, otherwise you might not be here today. So as we look at these results, there's over here. There's also a study that was done by the CV Library that revealed that 57% of employers see resilience as a key skill for candidates. In addition to that, 71% viewed the ability to adapt as well as a key skill, which is a core aspect of resilience. So these results reveal that businesses place, a really high value or emphasis on employees who do, in fact, demonstrate resilience. Now, one of the reasons that we're talking about resilience is, there is so much going on in the workplace right now, and stress levels are high. In fact, according to the American Heart Association, approximately 2 out of every 3 employees report work as a significant source of stress. Routine stress, including like job strain and long working hours, actually may contribute to serious health problems, including an elevated risk for heart disease or stroke, or experiencing depression for the first time. So stress in the workplace is a very it's a costly thing for companies as well. So we're going to hop back into the chat box. How much do you think the annual total expenditures of work-related stress have been estimated at? So how many billions of dollars? Let's see some numbers. 4, 5, 15, 100 billion. Yep, you guys need to go up. Keep going, way up. You guys are going to flip out when you see this number. Somebody said trillions. I know we got some folks from Atrium Healthcare. Oh, there we go, 500, 800. We're getting close. We're getting close. Oh, whoop, 500 billion. We actually went a little bit over. It's actually, you guys ready for the drum roll? Here we go. It's actually $190 billion. $190 billion. That is huge, huge. Again, these are expenditures that companies are paying out of their pocket to that are associated with stress. According to the Attitudes of the American Workplace, they reported that 80% of workers feel stress on the job. What I want to know is, the other 20% that didn't report any stress, I want to know what kind of job they have. The only thing I could think of were people that played with like puppies all day. So I want to know who that 20% is. One of the things that we see, though, is the pace and intensity of today's work culture isn't likely to change. So again, this is why resilience is more important than ever, to build some of those resiliency skills to effectively navigate your work life. So as we look at this, we see that resilience is definitely a skill that is needed. and we've got a couple of people who are saying, hey, it probably should be higher. Not everyone gets help for stress-related issues. And you are so absolutely right about that. There are a lot of people that are like, I'm fine, while their neck is hurting or they've got a headache or their back is hurting, whatever it might be. Those are things that to take into account. That number actually could be higher. So we've talked about, I asked you starting with, are you resilient? Then I asked you, how important do you think resilience is? So I want to ask now, on a scale of 1 to 5, how resilient is your workplace? Is your workplace like a 1, like the Titanic? It's hard to move. It's stiff. It's got a sort of one way to go. Or is your company resilient? You can turn on a dime. Oh, I love this. We got a lot of 3s there. You guys are kind of right in the middle, okay? 3 or 4, okay? Huge variety, absolutely. And I guess, it really depends on your company, your organization, the culture. All of these things impact the resilience in your workplace. I have to say, I'm going to brag on UNC Charlotte's Office of Continuing Ed and the university as a whole. When we found out, that we were going to be moving all of our classes online, for continuing ed, it was a little bit easier because we already do a lot of online courses. But for the university as a whole, we've got, a lot of instructors, professors that have never, just don't teach online. They're used to that face-to-face. So at the university as a whole, I think that we are a resilient organization, and particularly our department. We did not skip a beat, and one of the things we talk about with resilience is that ability to bounce back. And as we were, talking about things that we could do to help give back to the Charlotte community and beyond, this webinar came up, and that we were like, yeah, let's do this. So in terms of the resilience in your workplace, it's important that what you bring to the workplace actually can maybe move the dial a little bit, and help make move some of those numbers from a 3 up to a 4 or even a 5. All right, so really, why is resilience in the workplace so important? Resilience really is a critical life skill that has roots in the key to our own survival. Our ability to cope with stress and unexpected challenges and even thrive in these types of situations is adaptive. And this really isn't news to anyone, but as we've already established, workplaces are embedded with stress. Occupational stress affects personal and professional outcomes. But those psychologically resilient employees, they're better able to cope with stress and are less likely to suffer from burnout. And obviously, this is clearly a benefit to the employer. To put this simply, the experience of positive emotions, which are fostered by resilience, they can actually expand productivity. If you've got people that are positive, that are resilient, you'll find that they will find a way to be productive, to give it their all. They're going to figure out a way to look at some of the different options, which leads to number 2. They will open employees' eyes to a range of possibilities. They are not, they won't settle for the status quo. They want to know what else is out there. And as a result, this actually can increase the likelihood of more creative solutions. So instead of saying, okay, well, this is how we've always done it, how do we pivot? How do we make it better? How do we, how do we do something differently? What can we add on? So I love, I'm looking at some of these the comments, and I believe one of the biggest factors to being resilient is the ability to change and evolve. You are absolutely right. That ability and willingness. So, and that's a key word. I like that. Thanks for adding that into the comment box, that willingness. There's a lot of people that, when things get tough and their supervisor or their leader tells them to, or asks them to do something or tells them to do something, they'll do it. But there's always that willingness. And that is also ties in really, really well with resilience. Now, if you look at these three things, expanding productivity, looking at the broader picture of possibilities, being able to come up with more creative solutions, what that does, it actually creates a competitive business. And from a business standpoint, that hits the bottom line. So this is important because resilience actually can impact how well an overall company does. What's interesting is that, to continue, these positive emotions also serve as like a buffer against workplace stress. You might be saying, well, how does that happen? Well, positive emotions enable individuals to make positive appraisals of what otherwise might have been a stressful situation. I'm going to use continuing ed as another example. For us, when we started working at home, it was a little bit stressful. We were like everybody else. We were adapting and trying to figure out how we could best serve our learners. But now, we're like, wow, okay, this actually is turning out to be a positive thing. We're getting lots of great feedback from individuals from all over saying, hey, I actually like these online classes. Now, I'm not suggesting that you wrap yourself up in bubble wrap before you go into work, but think about it. When you're around positive people, their positivity seems to rub off on you. So, in other words, you could say that positive emotions foster positivity in the workplace. At work, resilient people, as we've said before, are actually able to deal with the demands placed upon them, especially where those demands might require them to deal with organizational upheaval or changing priorities or impending staff cutbacks and looming deadlines or even like really unbelievably hard or heavy workloads. And just like this plant in this picture found a way to survive, resilient people do the same, except they not only find a way to survive, but they thrive. And that is a defining characteristic. So think about the people that you work with. Some of them are just able to handle things better than others, right? You've heard the saying, it's like water off a duck's back. These people just roll with the punches. And resilience isn't a characteristic that's gifted to some people and not others. The key here is that resilience isn't a passive quality, but rather it's an active process. It's something that you constantly have to work on. There are days that all of us are more resilient than others. There are some days when our feet hit the floor and we are like, all right, I'm just going to take on the world. I'm going to get it done. And then there are other days where we're like, man, I can't handle anything else. I need to go home, or I need to give myself a timeout. But we all have to be active in this process and continue. Just like at the beginning of the session, I said, hey, resilience is a skill. And with practice, you can improve it. It's the same thing. It's an active process. In fact, according to the Center for Confidence and Well-Being, the good news is that although some people seem to be born with this resilience DNA, there are others whose resilience that's lower. The good news is that they can learn to cope and flourish and thrive even when the going gets tough. So again, resilience can be learned. So I want you to go back and think about those employees we talked about, that you were thinking about earlier, that seem to be able to handle the challenges of the workplace. What is it about these employees? What do they do differently? Or what do they do that sets them apart when things get hard? Here are some of the key characteristics. Resilient employees, they build strong connections and relationships with others. And these connections are characterized by effective communication, where the individual listens actively and is responsive to their colleague and their emotions. They also nurture these networks that they've developed, and they're constantly doing things to help build trust with these individuals. What's interesting is that some research shows that resilient employees actually don't take the work environment too seriously. They introduce an element of play to the workplace, which further fosters, positive emotions among your employees. So, in my office, my colleagues, half the time they don't know what I'm going to be doing. So, but I try to, have fun. I mean, if you're spending 8 hours with these folks, let's have some fun. So don't take your work environment too seriously. And then finally, resilient workers actually do what they can to help their colleagues achieve success. In other words, they're a team player who aims for that win-win. Another characteristic of resilient people is that they engage in self-care and nurturing themselves. They're actually able to manage stress effectively so that they don't get overwhelmed. They're exercising and they get enough sleep. Of course, don't get me started. We can do a class just on those two topics alone. But even after a stressful incident, however minor it might be, resilient employees are able to bounce back and avoid burnout. In addition, resilient employees are true to their real self. They are authentic and they behave in a way which is in alignment with their values and beliefs. In other words, they practice what they preach. And basically what you see is what you get. They're not one person at home and another person in the office. Resilient employees actually love their work. So how these resilient people, how they perceive their occupation and their day-to-day tasks also sets them apart. These workers perceive their work as meaningful. One example that we're probably most in tune to right now are medical practitioners who see their work as leading to health outcomes for their patients rather than just fixing a medical problem. And of course, with the COVID crisis, this has never been more true. So, I've been talking a little bit. Let's flip back over into the chat box. Who are some of the resilient people in your life? Moms, daughters, wives, dads, kids, grandparents, spouses and children, wives, husbands, dads, love it. Oh, people battling cancer and other illnesses. My mom and my brother. I'm noticing a trend here. Moms, man, we are awesome. Moms are probably some of the most resilient people that I know. Not only my own mom, she was amazing, but moms in general. I love it. We've got dads, of course, best friends. Mother's Day is around the corner, that's right. So don't forget that. All right. I want you guys to I want you to call these people today and go, hey, thank you for being a resilient person in my life. But these people, you see what they do, and you're like, wow, okay. They're like that Timex watch. They take a licking and they keep on ticking. So what we find here, oh, Lydia, hi, you are just too funny. You lifted me. Woohoo! You're just so funny. But these are the resilient people. They make us want to be better. Now, what I want to know is, all these people that you listed, what specifically do they do that makes them resilient? Is it their attitude? Is it their gumption? What is it? What makes them resilient in your eyes? Sense of humor, open-mindedness. All right, they refuse to let challenges get to them. Adaptive. The ability to let go. The ability to roll with it. Good attitude. Oh my gosh. Their drive. I love that. They refuse to give up. Always moving forward. Their perseverance. Oh, these are awesome. Willingness to make a new way work. My husband listens to me, vents and complaints, and doesn't change his own mood. I love that. Positive energy, authenticity. They keep trying. Yeah, all of these things. And, with resilient people, we can learn a lot of things from, watching these resilient people around us. They inspire me. They make me want to be better. They want me to be more resilient. They want me to bring the heat to the classroom or wherever I'm at. They make me want to do better. So let's talk about some tips to help build your own resilience. Things that you can do to help you kind of keep moving forward. All right, so number one, transform adversity into opportunity. And I love this picture with the lemons because, for some people you've heard the saying, take lemons and make lemonade. But we might have some amazing bakers on this webinar, and I guarantee you that they're making lemon cookies and lemon meringue pie and lemon cake, and they're squirting it all over the salmon and all this other stuff. They're figuring out where there are opportunities to use these lemons, not just lemonade. Napoleon Hill was an American self-help author, and he's really best known for his book, Think and Grow Rich. And it's actually one of the top best 10 selling self-help books actually of all time. And he said focus on the possibilities for success, not for the potential of failure. I love that. Let me repeat that. He said, focus on the possibilities for success, not on the potential for failure. These are the people that are those are some of the people that, they're always looking for, though the glass is half full. They are, what's next? What can we do? What else can we do? You don't have to walk around with rose-colored glasses. That's not what I'm saying. But do try to see the brighter side to any situation. For every risk that we take and every decision that we make, we have to consider possible outcomes and the probability of those outcomes. So when bad things happen to us at work, they may not necessarily be a bad thing. In some ways, the COVID virus could be a positive for some companies. Again, I'm taking myself, for example. If it weren't for COVID, I might not be sitting here today talking with you fine people. COVID got me to slow down and explore how else I could help, develop individuals and work with our learning community. Other companies did the same. I know there's several distilleries that moved from making, craft beer to hand sanitizer. Those things are amazing. They took something that could have been really bad and made it better for themselves. So what I would say is, take this time to focus on your customers. Maybe focus on some of those projects that were going on the wayside, but finding ways to turn adversity into opportunity. Ashley Ambridge wrote in her book, The Middle Finger Project, there's a silver lining to every poop storm, and you can fill that in yourself. So tip number 2, choose your response. Viktor Frankl was a concentration camp survivor, and he was the author of the book Man's Search for Meaning. And he said that between stimulus and response, there is space. And in that space is our power to choose our own response. And in our response lies growth and freedom. So when the stuff hits the fan in our lives, our natural temptation is to panic. Our judgment gets clouded by our emotions. We see dead ends instead of detours. And sometimes something that seems like it's a minor failure actually, gets blown out of proportion and becomes a massive one. So when things go sideways at work, you have the choice to react in any number of ways. You can lose your mind, maybe say a few things that you probably shouldn't, or you can acknowledge the reality that you're in and ask yourself, what good might come from this? That's one of my favorite questions to ask. Sometimes when I'm thinking, okay, this is not good, okay, what good might come from this? I didn't get this, or I didn't, this didn't work out the way I thought it would. What good might come from this? Number 2, how might I be better off than before? I think for me, using COVID as an example, I'm getting awesome at technology, which before I just downright sucked. I'll be honest. I'm missing technology DNA. My husband doesn't even let me touch the TV remote. But I'm actually getting pretty good on dealing with technology. Another question that you can ask yourself, who do I want to be on the other side of this? And it doesn't matter what the situation is. Maybe, it's a divorce or a breakup, or maybe you didn't get that promotion, or maybe you didn't get this, or that didn't work out. But who do you want to be on the other side of this? And asking, what are my options? Emily Fletch, who's the author of How to Stress Less and Accomplish More, she said that when you shift your focus from things happening to you, making yourself a victim, to actually recognizing that they're happening for you, that there could be opportunities for growth, that impacts the way that you can actually strengthen and improve yourself. So you not only take back your power in life, but you recognize the much bigger implication and the echoes of your audience. So in other words, in the words of Ryan Holiday, focus on the moment, not the monster that may or may not lie ahead. So choose your response. All right. Number 3, be flexible. I would love to be able to do this. I'm just not a flexible person, but maintain perspective and be flexible. Resilient people understand that even when things, the best laid plans are laid out, things can go sideways, and it may not make that big of an impact over the long run. So try to avoid blowing events out of proportion. Resilient people understand that things change, and that a lot of times you might have to amend them or even scrap some of those plans. Sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. All right, tip number 4. get it done. Or, in the words of Larry the Cable Guy, get her done. If you're already doing this, kudos to you. Learn to set smart, effective goals. It is incredibly important to set and achieve goals that match your values and to learn from your experiences. So when it comes to taking action, don't underestimate the power of starting small. One of my favorite authors and leadership gurus is Seth Godin. He says the best way to be where you want to be a year from now or 10 years from now is to do something today that you'll be glad that you did. And I love this picture because it sort of sets forth a path to move forward. And resilient people are always moving forward. So get out there, set a goal, make a plan, get to work. Just get in there and do it. Even if you take one small step, believe it or not, it actually will create, more progress and momentum and motivation. So follow this, get it done. Number 5, work on your self-confidence. Remember, resilient people are confident that they're going to succeed eventually, despite the setbacks or the stresses that they might be facing. They're like, heck yeah, I will find a way to get there. I will figure out a workaround to get this done. So working on that self-confidence. One of the things, when you have self-confidence or that belief in yourself, it also enables you to take risk. So when you develop confidence and a strong sense of self, you have that strength to keep moving forward and to take those risks that you need to get ahead. Tip number 6, show your commitment. Jean-Paul Sartre said commitment is an act, not a word. So show your commitment to your team. Show your commitment to your organization. Do whatever it takes to help move your organization forward. We want to make sure that you're showing your commitment, and you do that by your actions. Number 7, observe and reflect. I will be honest, and I'm the first one to say this, I don't do enough of this. It's okay to allow yourself or grant yourself time to do this, to think about how you handle the situation or what you could have done differently. We're able to listen to ourselves and ask questions and raise our self-awareness. And again, acknowledge the reality of our current situation. If it sucks, don't be afraid to say that it sucks. But what did you learn from this situation? Take some time to jot down some notes. Journaling is a great way to reflect and put things back in perspective. And guess what? So the next time you're faced with this type of challenge, you'll be better prepared. You'll be more in tune with yourself because you've observed and reflected how you've reacted this way with other scenarios. I want to leave you with this final quote, and I just don't think I could say it better than Winnie the Pooh. Always remember, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. So I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to spend a little bit of time today with you. I hope that this was valuable and that it provided some content that'll help prepare you to continue to be resilient. So I wanted to go back, and these were our learning objectives that we had at the beginning of the session. And I'm hoping that you can check off that, you now know what resilience looks like, why it's important, and then you have some specific action items. So before we go, don't get off. No, I'm not done yet. I'm right on time, but I want to know what's one action item that you're going to make in your daily life to become more resilient leader. So I'm going to put my glasses back on so I can see what's coming up in the chat box. Oh, let's see. Balance. Okay, love it. Taking time to reflect. Sleep. I love it. Absolutely. Observe and reflect. Love it. Self-care. Absolutely. Take care of yourself, guys. Meditation, that positive attitude. Breathe. Set boundaries. Take the 30 minutes every morning to be in nature. I love that. Absolutely. These are all things that you can do. And you don't have to come up with, 15 different things. Pick one thing and work on those. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Smell the roses. Don't be controlled by life's uncontrollables. Oh, is that not the truth? I love it. I have no control over this. I'm just going to go with it. Love it. All right, guys, I have actually surpassed my time, but I wanted to show you one other thing. Let's look over here. Our next Continuing Ed webinar is next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel, and it's Embracing and Managing Change. And my colleague, Nicole Greer, is going to be facilitating this. She is amazing. So if you have not already signed up for that webinar or any of the others, I would encourage you to do so. Please share the link with everybody that you know. And so at this time, I'm actually would love to stay connected with you. Here's my email address. You can also find me on social media, but I'm going to open it up to Q&A. So if you've got questions, put those in the chat box. Let's continue for just a few more minutes. Rebecca, thank you for passing it on to 50 people. I love it. Love it. All right. All right, what are some ways you can develop resilience in others? Oh, Desiree, that is such a great question. I have been married for 21 years, and and I dated my husband about 10 years before that, so I'm still working on that one. But ways to develop resilience in others is when you're working on something and it's maybe going sideways, asking questions to that person, getting them to talk. Why, if they're like resistant to something new or a challenge, open up. Get them to open up. Ask them open-ended questions. How are you feeling, or what's giving you heartburn about this? And one of my favorite questions of all time is, how might we? And that opens up the possibilities. So asking that individual who may not be as resilient, asking them questions, and then, inviting them to go for a walk, or maybe, join you for a Zumba thing, or whatever it might be. Building those connections with that individual will help them. It'll help build their self-confidence. Those are just a few things. Yep. All right, what else? Let's see. How do you think that you should handle this? Should be our first response. I love that. People already know the answer. They just need to learn to trust their instincts. Love that. One of the things, too, is that with the questions, we're going to gather all this information, too, and put that on the email that we're going to be sending out this afternoon. So what other questions do you have? Let me flip back up here a little bit. All right. So resilience, what other questions do you have about resilience? What are some ways? Let's see. We got that one. Okay.
Hey, Amy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I see.
Hey.
I mean, we had 500 register for this, so they've been flying in. But I know you touched on how to teach resilience to somebody, but how do you teach it, encourage it, and cultivate it within a team? That was asked earlier by a few people.
I love that. It's funny. A lot of it is again, building those connections. That was one of the things that we talked about is, one, building those connections, getting to know people on a personal basis. And, you know, I have to say, the voice that just came on was my boss, Asher Haynes. He's our director of continuing ed, and he is amazing. He makes all of us feel like we are a part of a bigger team, that we are an integral part of it. And I would have to say, he actually is one of the resilient people that I admire. But, you know, looking at who's on your team and, you know, making sure that they are involved, asking them questions, bringing them into the conversation, getting to know them, and, you know, making sure that whatever assignments or projects that you're putting them on, that they're interested in those, and that they've got the skills and the capabilities. Asking them their opinion, again, working with them to get their buy-in. And a lot of it is just, you know, sometimes you just got to be goofy and silly and throw people off guard and get them laughing, and it disarms them, and, you know, just, you know, have fun with these folks. It's, you know, we only live life one time. It's way too short to waste on, you know, not being great team members with your colleagues. So, all right.
Perfect. There was a specific question when you were going over the lemons and lemonade and lemon cookies.
Yes.
Someone missed the specific quote that you had for that one that really resonated. So I want to get that one from you.
Yeah, that quote was, just a moment, let me flip back here real quick. It was actually from Napoleon Hill, who is the author of Think and Grow Rich. And the quote was, "Focus on the possibilities for success, not on the potential for failure." So always looking at, you know, what else is out there? What else can we do? Focus on the possibilities for success, not on the potential for failure. All right.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you hit a lot of questions. I wanted to make sure you saw some of these comments. People really loved it. Tahisa said, "This is one of the most valuable information I've received all month long. I was in a funk, and now I cut it off, but it was still really positive."
Awesome.
And there's some really good comments from everybody. So,
well, you know, they're amazing people. Everybody on here, you're amazing. I love it, and you are more resilient than you know. I know all of us have been through something in our lives that required us to be resilient. So you've got it in you. Just keep working on it. Again, we're going to send out some extra tools this afternoon. I've got a list of books that I'm going to send you. I'm sending you the Amy Purdy TED Talk on living beyond limits. And if it's a 9-minute and 36-second video, if that does not move you to make you want to be a better person or find that resilience, her story is amazing. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. If there are no other questions.
You got one more good one, Amy.
Oh, yes.
And I should also mention, we have people from all over. I mean, obviously a lot of people from the Carolinas, but also strong from the Midwest, in Detroit, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. But anyway, so if you haven't told us where you're from yet, go ahead and throw that in. But the last question we have time for is, when interviewing a candidate for your team, how do you pinpoint resilient characteristics within the interview process?
I love it. Okay, so listen for positive words. Listen for positive words. If they come across as energetic or they are positive, you know, a lot of times, you know, you do the behavioral questions like, tell me about a time where you had a challenge that you had to overcome. If they talk about how awful it was, and, you know, they just go on and on and on about how terrible it was without showing a positive outcome, you're gonna kind of pick up on that person may not be as resilient, or they don't have that resiliency skill that you want and or need. The other thing is, listen for where they talk about opportunities. If they're talking about, coming into your company, hopefully they've done a little bit of research. Find out what they know about you and, what opportunities they might be able to bring to the table. So they're looking at those bigger possibilities beyond, not just the job description that they've obviously seen, but what else can they bring to the table? Yeah. Awesome. All right. Guys, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow our UNC Charlotte Continuing Ed department on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. Our amazing marketing manager, Chris Duncan, he's always got stuff going on there, telling people about what's going on in our department. We have a lot of stuff always going on, so we've got a lot of exciting things. Come and follow us, and definitely check out our website to see what else we have available. I know that we've got some amazing classes, and what better time than now to stretch yourself. So hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar and some additional classes.